You only plan to stop by Walmart for a few things. But then you have to wait for someone to unlock a glass case just to get a tube of toothpaste. Scan your own items at self-checkout. Then stop one more time to have your receipt checked before walking out the door. Is Walmart falling apart right in front of us? Every week, about 255 million shopping trips still happen across more than 4,600 Walmart stores. When very small changes are repeated millions of times, they stop being small changes. If you only look at revenue or store count, the answer might be no. But if you look at what's happening every day inside Walmart, from the shopping experience to the way stores operate, you'll see a very different picture. Today, we're going to look at 15 signs that are making more and more shoppers feel like Walmart isn't the Walmart they used to know. 15. Walmart is quietly changing direction. You might not notice it because Walmart still looks like Walmart. The stores are still busy. Shopping carts are still filled with groceries. Rollback signs are still everywhere. At first glance, everything seems perfectly normal. But by the middle of 2026, something very noticeable had started to happen. Walmart was no longer just expanding the strategies that had once been seen as the future of retail. It had started rethinking those very strategies. Just a few years ago, self-checkout was seen as the answer to labor shortages, lower costs, and shorter checkout lines. Store after store kept adding more self-checkout lanes. But by 2026, at some locations with high shrink rates, Walmart began reducing self-checkout and bringing cashiers back. At the same time, AI was taking on a different role. Instead of focusing on replacing people, more and more AI tools were being used to help employees monitor inventory, spot unusual transactions, and manage stores more efficiently. That's a very noticeable shift. The technology is still expanding, but the way Walmart is using it has changed. And this adjustment isn't happening only at Walmart. Other major retailers are also rethinking their self-checkout strategies after years of expanding too quickly. That points to a new reality. Retail is no longer focused only on speed. Companies are trying to balance costs, security, and the customer experience. That's why so many changes that seem unrelated are showing up at the same time. Fewer self-checkout lanes, more AI cameras, more products locked behind glass, more checkpoints. At first glance, they all seem like very small changes, but when you put them all together, they show that Walmart is entering a completely different phase. No longer a phase of expanding at any cost, but a phase of rethinking what was once considered the future. Maybe that's the most important sign of all, because when the world's largest retailer starts adjusting its strategy, it's often a sign that the old approach is no longer delivering the results it once did. And from that point on, the changes begin showing up in every shopping trip. 14. Shoppers aren't starting with Walmart anymore. There's a change that's almost impossible to see, but it can determine the future of any retailer. It's the moment a shopper asks, "Where should I go first today?" For decades, the answer was almost always Walmart. Not because Walmart was perfect, but because it was the most convenient choice. One trip, buy almost everything, then head home. But by 2026, that habit is quietly changing. People aren't walking away from Walmart. They're just not starting with Walmart anymore. What's interesting is, this shift isn't just based on how people feel. It's also showing up in shopping behavior research. People are splitting up their shopping baskets more than ever. Groceries might come from Aldi, bulk items from Costco, household goods ordered from Amazon, and anything they need right away, they'll grab from a nearby store. Instead of looking for one place that sells everything, they're choosing the best place for each item. That's a major shift. According to a nationwide survey in early 2026, about 62% of households still regularly buy groceries at Walmart. But at the same time, 44% also shop at warehouse clubs like Costco or Sam's Club. 30% shop at Aldi, and 25% regularly visit other discount chains. That tells us Walmart is still enormous, but it no longer owns the entire shopping trip the way it once did. In retail, the hardest thing to lose isn't a customer. It's being the first place that comes to mind. Once that position starts to slip, every shopping decision after that begins to change too. Today, Walmart loses a few items from the shopping cart. A few months later, it could lose the entire shopping trip. This kind of shift rarely shows up right away in a financial report. It starts with very small decisions, repeated week after week. And once enough people change their habits, it's no longer about individual shoppers. It's a signal that no retailer can afford to ignore. 13. Walmart's biggest promise is starting to fade for decades. Walmart wasn't just selling products, it was selling a promise. Go to one place, and you could buy almost everything: groceries, household essentials, medicine, clothes, electronics. Then head home. That's why millions of families were willing to drive a little farther. Not because Walmart was the closest, but because they believed one trip was all it took. But by 2026, that promise was starting to come with more exceptions. One item needed an employee to unlock a glass case. Another was out of stock. Another was better ordered online. And another was cheaper somewhere else. One shopping trip no longer always ends at one store. That's a very noticeable change. Today's Walmart supercenters are still about 180,000 square feet and carry more than 120,000 items under one roof. But people no longer measure convenience by how many products a store carries. They measure it by how much time and how many decisions they have to make. If they have to drive farther, wait longer, double-check more things, or stop somewhere else to finish the shopping list, then the promise that one trip is all it takes starts to lose its original meaning. It's a change that's hard to see. No stores are closing. There are no major announcements. It's just that every shopping trip gets a little more complicated. And when that happens over and over again, people begin adjusting their habits. Maybe that's what Walmart is really up against. Not losing retail space, but slowly losing the promise that kept millions of people coming back. And once that promise starts to fade, the entire in-store experience starts to be questioned. 12. Walmart isn't always the best value anymore. For years, Walmart hardly had to convince anyone. Just seeing the Walmart logo was enough for many people to assume they'd find the best prices. That trust used to be a huge advantage. But by 2026, what's changing isn't necessarily the prices, it's the way people check prices. With just a few seconds on a phone, every price can be compared right there in the aisle. If another store is cheaper, people will know. That means Walmart is no longer the automatic choice it once was. Now it has to compete for every buying decision. In fact, Walmart continues expanding its rollback program and running more price cuts to maintain its low-price image. That also points to something important. Having a price advantage is no longer something that can be taken for granted. And once people start comparing more, low prices alone are no longer enough. They're also thinking about time, convenience, and whether they truly feel they're getting good value for the money they spend. That's the bigger change. Walmart isn't just competing on price anymore. It's competing to prove Why people should keep coming back. 11. The most frustrating part isn't the price. It's not knowing whether the item is really there. You open the Walmart app. The product says, "In stock." You drive to the store, walk the entire aisle, and the shelf is empty. You check the app again. It still says it's in stock. An employee looks at a handheld device, then says, "It might still be in the back." But it also might be nowhere anyone can find. That's an experience more and more Walmart shoppers are running into. And what's worth noticing is, this is no longer just about an item being out of stock. A typical Walmart supercenter now manages around 120,000 products. Every day, thousands of cases keep arriving, getting moved, and being stocked onto shelves. At that scale, it only takes one part of the operation to slow down. For shoppers to end up staring at an empty shelf, even while the system still says the item is available. This is especially common with fast-selling items, products on sale, or items that were just ordered online for store pickup. The problem isn't that Walmart doesn't have the item. It's that people are finding it harder and harder to know whether what they need is actually ready to buy right now. And in retail, that kind of uncertainty can create a very small change with very big consequences. The next time, instead of driving to Walmart first, more people will check another store too, just to make sure the trip won't be for nothing. 10. Walmart is losing those spur-of-the-moment purchases. There's something fascinating about retail. Most of what people buy wasn't on their shopping list to begin with. You walk into Walmart to buy toilet paper, then you leave with a new mug, a scented candle, a box of cookies, or a clearance item you never planned to buy. That's what's known as an impulse purchase, a buying decision made in the moment. Many consumer behavior studies show that roughly 20% to 40% of the value of a shopping trip can come from purchases people didn't plan before they walked into the store. But those decisions only happen when shopping feels natural. Every time people have to stop, think twice, or run into a barrier, even if it's just a locked glass case or one extra verification step, the shopping experience gets interrupted. That moment of, "I'll just grab this too," slowly turns into, "maybe next time." That's something Walmart can't easily see on any single receipt. But when millions of shoppers all leave one small item behind, the combined impact is no longer small. Chapter 9. Walmart is willing to sell less so it can lose less. You're standing in front of a locked glass case. Inside are tubes of toothpaste that cost just a few dollars. You press the button to call an employee. No one comes. 2 minutes go by. Finally, you walk away. Walmart just lost a sale. But what's worth noticing is that may be an outcome the company already accepted. For years, retail's biggest goal was to sell more. The fewer the barriers, the easier it was for people to toss one more item into the cart. But over the past few years, that priority has started to change. According to the National Retail Federation, the U.S. retail industry loses about $100 billion every year to theft, fraud, and inventory shrink. For Walmart, with millions of transactions every day, cutting even a tiny fraction of that number could mean hundreds of millions of dollars. That's why many stores have accepted a trade-off. If some shoppers walk away because they don't want to wait for someone to unlock a glass case, that loss is sometimes smaller than the amount of merchandise that could disappear if everything stayed unlocked like it used to. That's a major shift in retail thinking. In the past, stores were designed to help people buy more. Today, in some locations, they're designed first and foremost to keep merchandise from disappearing. And when the world's largest retailer starts putting profit protection ahead of maximizing every sale, that's no longer just about a locked display case. It's a sign that the way Walmart operates has entered a completely different phase. 8. Walmart is turning time into a cost. The most expensive part of a Walmart trip today isn't always what you buy, it's the time you spend. What's interesting is, Walmart isn't taking an extra 10 or 15 minutes from you with one major change. Instead, it takes a little bit at a time. A few minutes to find the right item. A few more because an aisle is being restocked. A few more because you have to switch to a different checkout lane. None of those steps takes very long. But together, they all add up during the same trip. According to the American Time Use Survey, the average shopping trip for goods and services lasts about 41 minutes. That also means, if Walmart stretches every trip by just 5 or 10 minutes, the amount of time people are spending has gone up significantly. That's something very few people notice, because time never appears on the receipt. But it's still a cost every shopper quietly pays. And when millions of people each spend just a few extra minutes on every shopping trip, it's no longer just an individual experience. It becomes another sign that the way Walmart operates is changing right in front of us. 7. Walmart isn't setting the rules for retail anymore today. Driving to one store and buying groceries, clothes, medicine, electronics, and household essentials, all in the same trip, feels completely normal, but very few people remember. It wasn't always like that. There was a time when a family trying to shop for the weekend had to drive from one store to another. The grocery store for food, the drugstore for medicine, the department store for clothes, then somewhere else for electronics or household goods. Until Walmart came along. It didn't just build bigger stores. It changed the way the entire country shopped. For the first time, millions of families realized that almost everything they needed could be bought in one place. The slogan, "Everyday Low Prices," didn't just change Walmart. It changed the entire retail industry. Suppliers changed the way they made products. Competitors expanded their operations. Retail chains across the country started competing on price and operational efficiency. For many years, when Walmart changed, the rest of the industry followed. But today, that's no longer the case. Amazon is defining speed. Costco is defining the membership model. Aldi is defining what low-cost operations look like. Each company is leading a different part of the retail industry. Walmart is still the country's largest retailer, but it is no longer the only company setting the rules. And maybe that's the biggest turning point of all. Because when the company that once made the entire industry follow its lead starts adapting to changes created by others, that's not just a change at Walmart. It's a change across retail itself. 6. Walmart has to adapt faster than ever for decades. Walmart had one major advantage. It was big enough that it didn't have to change too quickly. When Walmart made a move, the rest of the industry usually watched and then followed. But today, that advantage isn't what it used to be. Technology changes in just a matter of months. Supply chains can be turned upside down by a single event. New retail models can appear and scale faster than ever before. That leaves Walmart with much less time to wait and see. It has to experiment sooner, invest sooner, and adjust faster. From AI to automation to store operations and delivery networks, every decision has to happen faster than it did before. Not because Walmart is getting smaller, but because the world around it is changing faster. Maybe that's the greatest challenge of being a giant. Because size used to be Walmart's advantage, but in a market that's constantly changing, size also makes every change harder to make. 5. The advantages that once made Walmart dominate are getting smaller for years. Walmart almost always had more advantages than its competitors. It bought products in enormous volumes. It built a distribution network that stretched across the country. And it had thousands of stores, bringing merchandise closer to people than almost any other retail chain. Together, those advantages created a cycle that was incredibly difficult to beat. Buy more, lower costs, offer more competitive prices, then keep expanding. That cycle is what made Walmart the largest retailer in the country. But today, that gap isn't nearly as wide as it used to be. Amazon built its strength through logistics. Costco grew through its membership model. Aldi competes with lower operating costs and a smaller product selection. Each company has found its own path to compete. Walmart still operates at an enormous scale, but scale is no longer something only Walmart has. And as the gap between retailers continues to narrow, holding on to the top spot becomes more difficult than ever before. 4. The formula that built Walmart is reaching its limits for years. Every new store Walmart opened meant more customers, more revenue, and another step in its expansion. That was the formula that fueled Walmart's growth for decades. Open more stores, serve more communities, then keep expanding. But when the same formula is repeated long enough, it eventually reaches its limits. Today, Walmart operates around 4,600 stores in the US alone. That's an enormous network, but it also means there aren't many large markets left to expand the way it once did. To keep growing, Walmart has to find new engines for growth. Instead of simply opening more stores, it's investing more heavily in e-commerce, expanding its marketplace, growing Walmart Plus, and increasing advertising revenue. That shift is showing up in the company's results as well. During its most recent fiscal year, Walmart's global e-commerce revenue grew by 16%, making it one of the company's most important growth drivers. That doesn't mean the traditional retail model has lost its value. It means the formula that brought Walmart to the top is no longer enough to take it much farther. And for a company that's already reached this kind of scale, the biggest challenge is no longer opening more stores. It's finding the next engine for growth. 3. Small changes are creating a very different Walmart. If you hadn't been to Walmart in years and walked back in today, you probably wouldn't see a completely different store. The signs still look the same. The aisles still feel familiar. Even the layout hasn't changed all that much. At first glance, everything seems just as you remember it. But once you've walked through the store, something starts to feel different. Not because of one major change, but because so many small changes now exist together in the same space. Each one was introduced to solve a different problem. Speed up checkout, reduce shrink, support online orders, improve operational efficiency. If you look at each decision on its own, it makes sense. But shoppers don't experience those decisions one at a time. They experience all of them during the same shopping trip. That also shows up in the way Walmart operates today. More than 50% of Walmart's US e-commerce orders are now fulfilled directly from stores rather than only from distribution centers. That means a store is no longer just serving the people pushing shopping carts through the aisles. At the same time, it's also preparing, packing, and shipping millions of online orders. The more roles a store takes on, the more its space has to adapt. And then, one day, people suddenly realize what feels different isn't a camera or a self-checkout lane. It's the feeling of walking into the store. Walmart still has the same familiar name, but the experience has become something very different. 2. Walmart is losing the hardest thing to build. If you had to pick Walmart's most valuable asset, a lot of people would probably say it's thousands of stores, or its massive logistics network, or the hundreds of billions of dollars it brings in every year. But actually, none of those is the hardest thing to build. The hardest thing to build is trust. The trust that whenever people need something, Walmart is the first place they think of. The trust that they'll find a fair price. The trust that their shopping trip will be simple. And the trust that they'll be treated like a customer. What's remarkable is, trust can't be bought with money. It can't be expanded by opening another store. And it can't be created with a single advertising campaign. It's built through millions of ordinary shopping trips, through experiences repeated year after year. And that's exactly why, when trust starts to crack, it's usually not because of one major incident. It's because too many small things happen one after another. Each time, most people don't decide to leave right away. They still come back. They still shop. They still choose Walmart because it's familiar. But that sense of confidence they once had isn't quite the same anymore. That's something you can't see on a financial report. You can't measure it with one quarter's revenue. But it's something every business understands. If you lose a store, you can build another one. If you lose a distribution center, you can invest in a new one. But once trust is gone, earning it back usually takes years, maybe. That's the most important sign of all. Not because Walmart has become weaker, but because the hardest thing to build is often the easiest thing to slowly lose. 1. The biggest sign. The feeling of walking into Walmart has changed drive through town today, and you'll still see those familiar blue buildings. The Walmart sign is still glowing. The parking lot is still packed on weekends. Shopping carts are still rolling through the automatic doors. From the outside, it still looks like the Walmart millions of families have known for years. If that's all you see, it's hard to say the place has changed. But if there's one sign that stands out more than any other, it isn't the building, it isn't the logo, and it isn't the number of stores. It's the way so many people feel, the moment they walk through those doors. Years ago, a trip to Walmart hardly required any thought. You grabbed a shopping cart, walked the aisles, picked up what you needed, checked out, then headed home. Everything felt effortless. Today, quite a few people walk into the store with a different mindset. They look more closely at price tags, check their phones more often, pause longer before deciding to put something in the cart. Not because Walmart suddenly changed overnight, and not because every store is the same, but because over the years, so many small changes have become part of the same shopping trip. Each one on its own may have a reasonable explanation, but once they all exist together, the experience slowly starts to feel different. What's worth noticing is, a lot of people recognized that change a long time ago. They've talked about it in conversations, in articles, and in comment sections. It's just that it wasn't easy to put into words exactly what they were feeling. And maybe that's where we finally see the biggest sign of all. It's not that Walmart has disappeared. It's not that Walmart is no longer the country's largest retailer. It's that the feeling that once made Walmart so familiar just isn't quite the same anymore. Some changes are too small to show up in a financial report. You can't measure them by the number of new stores, and you won't see them in a single quarter's earnings. But they're easy to recognize in the way people feel every week when they walk through those doors. And sometimes, that's the sign that's most worth thinking about. Some changes aren't big enough to make the evening news. They aren't big enough to bring down a company overnight. But when they happen, again and again, they slowly change the way people feel about a place that's been part of their lives for years. Maybe you won't agree with every sign on today's list, and that's completely okay. But I'd genuinely like to hear about your experience. The last time you walked into Walmart, what was the very first thing that made you feel it wasn't quite the same anymore? Not something I mentioned, something you noticed yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading every story. Who knows? Those everyday experiences might tell us more than any set of numbers ever could.